Imagine a country where the future of its young people is being held hostage by a system that favors the privileged few. Welcome to Bangladesh, where students are fighting for their rights and facing violence and intimidation in the process. In this video we will discuss why students are protesting and what is quota system in Bangladesh which causes all these clashes throughout the whole country. In Bangladesh, students are fighting for their rights and facing violence. They're protesting a quota system that favors the privileged few. The quota system, also known as the quota, introduced by Prime Minister William Pitt the Younger in 1795, required each English county to provide a quota of men for the Royal Navy based on its population and the number of its seaports. Percentage of quotas in Bangladesh is 10% for women, 30% freedom fighters, 10% for district-based, 5% for indigenous communities, 1% persons with disabilities and 44% for merit-basis students. Before Sunday's court decision, Bangladesh reserved about 30% of its high-paying government jobs for relatives of those who fought in Bangladesh's war for independence from Pakistan in 1971. The court ruled that 93% of roles would now be filled on merit. The Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, said in a press conference that, "Why do the protesters have so much resentment towards the freedom fighters? If the grandchildren of the freedom fighters don't get quota benefits, should the grandchildren of razakars get the benefit?" The razakars, a derogatory label in Bangladesh, refer to a paramilitary force made up of Bangladeshis who fought on the side of Pakistan during the 1971 war. The group is also accused of heinous crimes during the conflict, which saw atrocities committed on all sides. But here the worst thing happened. Ms. Hasina's comments galvanized even more protesters within hours. Thousands of students took to the streets of Dhaka that night protesting against the Prime Minister's remarks. They started calling Sheikh Hasina a lady dictator. Over the next few days, many more held rallies across the country. Protests turned violent when police and the ruling party student wing, Bangladesh Chhatra League, clashed with students. Rubber bullets and tear gas were used. Numerous fires were lit across the country, including at the state broadcaster BTV. More than 25,000 people have also been arrested in the past 2 weeks only in Dhaka, and more than 1,200 protesters have been murdered, and countless are missing and injured, which saw authorities calling in the military and imposing a nationwide curfew. The country's mobile internet and text message services have been suspended for at least 5 days in an attempt to quell the protests. The protesters said that they are giving an ultimatum to the government to fulfill their 8-point demand within 48 hours. One of the movement's leaders, Hasnat Abdullah, told reporters. He did not say what would happen if the government did not meet the demands. The government did not immediately comment. But in response the Supreme Court intervened, scrapping most quotas and reserving 5% for freedom fighters' families and 2% for underdeveloped groups and the disabled. Students see this as a victory, but their struggle isn't over. They vow to fight for a merit-based system and end corruption. Some student leaders have vowed to continue protesting to demand justice for protesters killed and detained in recent days. They are also seeking the resignation of government ministers and an apology from Ms. Hasina. Let's stand with these brave students and demand a fairer system. The future of Bangladesh depends on it. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina must take action to address the students' concerns. Otherwise it will be very hard for her to win in the coming elections because the students are very frustrated on her.